Welcome. Elizabeth, thank you for doing this follow-up conversation. I want to ask you about the Community Forum article that was published in the Footlighters Advocate on August the 1st, and that was authored by John Ruprecht, who was the lawyer for the Footlighters. But before we discuss the article, I'd like to put to you a few questions that the community's been asking about concerning this whole business. So let's go. First of all, are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right. All right. So first of all, did MCTV attempt to reach, a settlement or mediation with the Footlighters prior to going to trial?
Yes, we had 2 mediation sessions, once the lawsuit had been served. Mm-hmm. The first one, really, nothing was decided except to meet again. And the second one did sort of end with some possibility if they did a proposal of how they wanted the sharing to be, and we worked out how that was going to happen financially, and they had certain reports and things to do. And they never really did that. They turned in a drawing and they wouldn't answer questions and then said they wanted to go to court.
So, Elizabeth, can you tell me about the secret settlement that was supposedly brokered by Dan Jurdy with the Footlighters?
Not really. I mean, Dan had a conversation with Junis, and he talked some about that in a board meeting, and another board member was supposed to have a second meeting, and their lawyer, John Ruprecht, stopped it and said, "You can't be meeting without me." And so there was no settlement, there was a discussion.
And how many times did you meet with the Footlighters, and who did you meet with?
Well, Bud originally came and offered us the opportunity potentially to have the building, and then I probably talked to him once or twice, and then went to a board meeting, or a Footlighter meeting, mm-hmm. where they voted to give us the building, and then Bud and I met off and on to deal with, things that needed to happen with the building that he wanted to do, and, just to sort of meet.
Could MCTV have shared the building with the Footlighters?
Not really. Not practically. In other words, the space that's our television studio would become their stage, mm-hmm. their performance space. And the idea of tearing down a television studio every time there's a performance, and vice versa, it just doesn't work.
Why couldn't MCTV find or move to a new location, Elizabeth?
Well, we could find a new location, but we couldn't move because we didn't have any money, and we had a judgment, and still do, against mm-hmm. us for $40,000. So anything that we earned, or people donated, and people offered to donate money, would actually go to the Footlighters. It wouldn't help us move, so we'd still be left without any money.
So MCTV did not have the funds that the Footlighters and Mr. Ruprecht have intimated, is that correct?
Yeah, that's really correct, yes. We did not have the funds.
And has MCTV always been on the verge of insolvency?
We're a tiny nonprofit. Every year we just kind of barely make it through the fiscal year, where we then usually get some more money. And we then limp along till the next time. So yes, every year we end up behind.
And in respect to the Community Forum article, it is said that you did not inform the Footlighters of this fact.
No, I did inform them, not of the details, but at the meeting I was at, they asked me questions, and I was pretty clear that our budget was, very tight, but that we also had some grants coming from the cable company that we could use to help repair the building.
Elizabeth, did you work with anyone other than Bud Farley of the Footlighters?
Not really. I went to the meeting of the Footlighters where they voted to give us the building, but after that, Bud is the president and me as the main person, the director of MCTV. We were the ones that figured out what were the next steps and proceeded.
In your discussions with Mr. Farley, did he ever give you an indication of the value of the building?
No, we didn't really talk about the value of the building. It wasn't pertinent. They wanted to give their building away. It was falling down and they couldn't afford it. We didn't talk money.
So tell us about the assessment that Mr. Rupert brings up in the beginning of the article.
Yeah, I don't know why he keeps bringing it up, but basically when property changes hands, you have to have it assessed. It was cheaper for us to ask a local realtor to assess the property. Actually, the other realtor involved in this trial from Century 21 agrees with that assessment.
Did you press Mr. Farley to transfer the building to MCTV?
No, I didn't need to. He was ready to do it. There was a vote and he was ready to do it, and there we were.
Why did you not use a title company for the transfer?
I went to the title company and they said, we don't handle transfers when there's no money involved, and suggested that I would have to see a lawyer. So I went to a lawyer and had the lawyer transfer the property. I had no reason to believe she didn't do it in the right way or anything until I think we first started discovering this when we got letters from the lawyer that there was a problem with the date.
And this was from Mr. Rupert?
Right. The letters from Mr. Rupert had
Okay.
us looking at those, yes.
That was your first indication
Yes.
then, that there might
So
have
that's
been some irregularities or something with the...
Right, so that's 2 years later, or a year and a half later from signing the deed or transferring the deed.
So Elizabeth, let's turn to the article, if you don't mind. I'd like to have you talk a little bit about some of the things that are raised here, and I have to put on my glasses because I'm getting old. It says here, Swenson testified that the organization MCTV had $330,000 in grant funding from Comcast that has not been spent. Can you elaborate or talk to us a little bit about that? Is that true or false?
False, really false. 7 years ago when the franchise was signed, we got our first grant, and then we got 5 different grants over a course of 7 years. And they were to be used, or can only be used, for equipment and what you need to run the equipment, and facilities, which is money we use to renovate the building. And it's pretty equal how much we spent on each.
So Elizabeth, the title of this community forum is titled The Facts About the Footlighters Lawsuit. Would you have any comment on that?
I would call it the insinuations of the lawsuit. There's hardly any facts in there. There's the basic fact that the judge ruled against us around the deed, and that's true.
Did you ever file registration statements?
Oh, God, yes. We're up to date on everything.
It says here that you had a computer crash. What was lost?
I lost emails, I lost some memos. I didn't lose any financial data.
All right, so Elizabeth, moving on. Mr. Rupert also says here that Swenson admitted under oath that for 2 years she submitted false, in parentheses, she claims mistaken, reports to California Attorney General. Can you elaborate?
I have an accountant. She made an error. I didn't catch it. They've been corrected for a long time. There's no financial implications from anything that happened. It was kind of just, I didn't catch the mistake.
Was dissolving MCTV the only option?
Our lawyer said it was. Once the judgment came down, and we definitely had a judgment for $40,000 against us and no money, there was just no way to settle that. We had no way to go forward.
Is there anything that I haven't covered that you would like to address, Elizabeth?
Well, I think one of the things that people talk about is why we didn't ask for money, to help us out in this time. And so I hope I've made it clear, but the reality is any money that we would get would go to satisfy the Footlighters. And so we couldn't be asking people for money to pay the Footlighter debt. And that was just it. I mean, I think the real lesson, I guess, to me is to realize that when you're in a lawsuit, you cannot talk, you have no way to get the community involved in what's happening, because it can be used against you. And so the first time we could start to talk about this was once we dissolved, or moved to dissolve. And so you're just in an incredible trap in a lawsuit that I never would have imagined could be so bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. Some people have, because I've talked about retiring for a period of time, some people have said, oh, well, she just wanted to retire anyway. And honestly, I was sort of interested in the idea of moving to a new place and trying to set up. It was sort of another challenge that would make, I was willing to spend that kind of energy doing.
Mm.
So no, I wasn't going to, I didn't do this so that I could just retire. So, another thing actually that's come up in lots of different ways was basically, why couldn't we just get along?
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a complicated answer on some level, but on the basic number one thing is you have to have a level of trust. And that was broken from the very beginning and only got worse. So the other thing, of course, is that the fact that we had to dissolve meant that basically 4 people have lost their employment. And the capacity to do what we've been doing is, at least in the short run, completely lost. You don't have an organization like this unless you have staff that know what they're doing and feel responsible and do their job as best they can. And that's, a kind of a rare thing in some ways, and we've lost that. The one positive thing from this is that I have a real sense of that people think it's important. I can't talk about that, but I want to be able to say it, because someone said, well, people just don't care enough. It just wasn't a way that people could care. Is really, we got locked into something where the will of the community couldn't do anything. And so it's good to hear that there's almost, I think it's over 500 signatures on a petition of people saying they really want to have public access. And what's good about it is, honestly, I didn't often get that impression doing it.
And you did it for how long?
I don't know, 12 years or something.
Right. Well, Elizabeth, on behalf of the community and someone who has, benefited from MCTV, all we can really do is wish you the best of luck and thank you for what you did to keep MCTV on the air. And, this is a situation that, I know a lot of people didn't want to see happen, but unfortunately it has. And hopefully there will be ways that the community can, get a public access. Thank you.